Security gang, and welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast. My name is James Azar. I'm the host of the CyberHub Podcast. I'm also a Chief Information Security Officer by trade. Yesterday announcing that I have taken a position with Artera. So very excited about that and looking forward to the challenge ahead. Anytime you're in critical infrastructure, what I like to say, kind of like blue collar, I thrive in those environments. I really do. I love it because it really goes back to the basics of what we do as practitioners, and I think there's so much to it. So very excited. Thank you for all the love that everyone sent out via LinkedIn. My phone blew up, my WhatsApp from friends overseas. So I just want to say thank you to all y'all and recognize every single one of y'all. Packed show today. A lot to talk about this morning. The cybersecurity kind of theme around what's happening right now can really be boiled down into three different categories. And it's a shift. Yes, there's the traditional ransomware attacks that we kind of see. However, that's really shifted to more active data exfiltration and extortion types of attempts with a more public view of trying to get the company to pay something in order to not have all the data released. Although it does lack some understanding from the criminals, simply because when you do that, I still have a fiduciary duty to report. So you're not saving me anything. You're eliminating the business disruption, which we're grateful for, but at the same time, that the plan has a few holes in it, kind of like a Swiss cheese. So there's that aspect to it, but there's additional aspects to it. What we're seeing is a concentrated attack on Cisco devices. We talked about that yesterday on the show. We've talked about it for the last several months, really since the beginning of the year. I feel like Cisco's having their Microsoft 2021 year. If you remember post SolarWinds, when Microsoft's source code was actually infiltrated by the Russians and the Chinese, the amount of 0 days we encountered from essentially SolarWinds, which happened around December of 2020, all the way through January of 2022, was nothing short of just one thing after the other on the Microsoft front. It now seems like we're having the same here with Cisco. Cisco's having their moment. Avanti's had their moment for the last 10 years. Someone still buys their products, apparently. So all of that still in play. But today's show, packed a lot. Crypto theft, lots of that happening. The North Koreans, the Iranians are now starting to target those crypto facilities. And folks, if you're in this crypto space, you have to understand you're not dealing with thieves. You're dealing with nation states. And so that does require an industry collaboration. That's the only way you're going to win it. So let's get into that story and so much more on today's show. Join me for my double espresso coffee cup. Cheers, y'all. All right. Let's talk about Balancer for a second, because these guys are going through a $120 million theft or precision manipulation. Balancer disclosing a large loss after attackers have used protocol math to drain funds. On-chain flows suggest a precision rounding style manipulation rather than a classic private key compromise, showing you a new tactic. DeFi composability means contagion risk to connected pools and aggregators. So this is a treasury hit, users loss, and even a potential liquidity shock for some DeFi participants with exposure to affected pools. You want to pause, withdraw from some of those impacted pools. You should raise slippage protection and monitor Balancer and exchange announcements. And you should review treasury DeFi policies for max loss per protocol limits there. Again, this was built on the Ethereum blockchain. It's an automated market maker. Again, they literally walked away just by manipulating some of the data, not necessarily going after something specific there. And again, a new technique, which shows you the evolution of how our adversaries are studying these crypto and DeFi platforms and then using them for their monetary gain. And that's significant. I've been in the crypto business as James Azar, as an individual, since 2013. So I've seen all the ups and downs of the market. I've seen people say it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Only many companies failed along the way as massive investments went into blockchain and crypto, only to never really reach its full potential because the industry wasn't ready to adopt the technology, yet there was a lot of pushback. And there were a lot of significant questions around its viability and scalability, all very valid, by the way, to the kind of cryptocurrency, kind of what we see today. All of those coming into play, showing you how our adversaries are moving along. Okay. I want to stay on track today because otherwise I'll go down that. All right. So UK drinking water suppliers are getting hit with record cyber incident reports, according to the UK. Their Britain Drinking Water Inspectorate received 15 reports since January of last year. That's 2024. Five cyber related against out of NIS scope systems. None disrupted water potability, but the count is the highest 2-year stretch yet, and surface gaps in what must be reported under NIS under the new Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. This really is causing some headaches because it's essentially showing you that nothing is off limit. And folks, if you think that, wow, they're going after water systems, that's crazy. Where were you during COVID when they were going after hospitals and rural clinics that couldn't provide life-saving support to folks because they were hitting their equipment? I'm old enough to remember that. If you're in the utility space, microsegmentation is significant. OT/IT segmentation, even more. Closing down ports and really shutting off the network and looping it off to a one single exit, one single entrance is actually a good thing. Yes, it doesn't give you a lot of options, but if anything comes through, you're picking it up because that's the only way in. So all eyes are there, and these places are underfunded, understaffed, underskilled. All of that plays into the water systems. And that's just not a UK problem. It's a US problem. It's a Western world problem. So keep that in mind there as you're looking at it as well. We move to what threat actors are using RMM tools there, by the way, which is really, really significant here. Researchers tracking some of this. So let's get into the freight cargo theft goes cyber via RMM tool abuse. Proofpoint observing 24 campaigns since August of this year using fishy load board lures to push Screen Connect, Simply Help, PDQ Connect, Net Support, letting criminals reroute shipments, change dispatcher phones, and even delete bookings altogether. This is direct loss of goods and claims dispute. So what they're doing is, it's kind of the new style of Fast and Furious. If you go back to the first Fast and Furious, that was what, 2001, 2002? The original movie, they were hijacking semi-trucks. Well, now, you've got Ludacris sitting on a laptop. Sorry, Luda, ATL love. All right. So you got Ludacris sitting on a laptop, and he's essentially logging into the shipping companies. He's redirecting people to different warehouses where they're offloading the goods to criminals who never bought the product. And then they turn around and sell it into the market. Pure cash profit. This is the direct loss of goods and claims. Your insurance premiums will spike because you're going to be reporting this. And I'm not sure that they're going to if you don't have cyber insurance, that they'll pay you for it. Because they may say this was instigated through a cyber incident. And so maybe you get some business disruption, but I don't know that you get all your goods. It's actually a really good question I've got to look into, right? You should block unapproved RMM installs. And again, for these trucking companies, again, blue collar folks, like, you can't block this stuff off. You're a truck driver, someone who's transporting. Typically, they get a company issued phone, they'll get a company issued laptop as they travel. And being a truck driver is very, very difficult. I know someone very close to me who does that. It's really, really rough, right? And so they have their own personal laptop, which you can't get them to download anything. They're sitting at truck stops. They're easy marks because they're alone as they're doing it there. So they're always looking for companionship. They're playing video games and so much more. And so it makes it really, really easy. For those that are wanting to avoid this, what I would say, any change should require what I like to call the great human interaction of picking up the phone, calling the person you deal with and saying, hey, I got this. Does this make sense to you? That goes a long way. Let's go to South Korean telecom, where the breach costs reduce operating profit by 90%. The April disclosure impacting 27 million customers. Malware was present since 2022 in that case. South Korea Telecom reporting a third quarter operating profit collapse, a record regulator fine of 134 billion wons, SIM replacements, and a customer appreciation package that further hit revenue, impacting stark P&L, dividend suspension, and even churn. Board level risk framing for data rich telcos is now top of mind here. They've lost 90%. The company posted an operating profit of 48.4 billion won. It's $34 million. That's down from 493 billion won a year earlier. And their sales fell 12.2%. Real impact of a cyber incident there, folks. Real numbers. These are the numbers that need to go to the boardroom. These are the numbers that need to go to the boardroom. This is what matters. All right. For all of you that are cybersecurity professionals in the Atlanta area, CISO XC, my friend Cecil, Jamin, and everyone is coming in. Well, Cecil won't be here tomorrow, unfortunately, but CISO XC is coming into town in Atlanta at the Wheatley tomorrow. If you haven't registered, we'll put the link in our show notes. We'll also have the link available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Come by, check it out. I'll be there for a little bit. Then I've got to go give a keynote at FutureCon that's also in town, and then I'll be back. So very excited about that. See y'all tomorrow at CISO XC. We move to Claude, where folks, Claude AI APIs are being abused for data exfiltration and actual design misuse, not a vulnerability existing within Claude. Researchers showing how Claude API patterns can be misused by attackers to stage or even shuttle data. It's about controlling agent behavior and outputs more than actually exploiting any sort of CVE. Shadow AI usage could create unlogged exfil path. You want to have an egress policy for AI endpoints, allow lists for vendor tenants, and even secret redactions. You should prompt guardrails and even disable unsanctioned API keys within your environment to deal with a threat like this one as well. We move to our next story here as we're almost out of time today. So Sesame Op backdoors misusing OpenAI assistance via API SC2. And again, another one where Microsoft Dart found a .NET backdoor, a loader, plus an app domain manager injection that pulls the OpenAI assistance API for compressed encrypted commands. No bug in OpenAI, just a misuse of a legit service like the one we just talked about a second ago with Claude for Stealth C2. OpenAI and Microsoft disabled the keys involved. Assistant API depreciates in August of 2026. So they're saying, you've got 9 more months to deal with it. Still a very, very long time. Again, this makes detection much, much harder when C2 hides inapproved SaaS environment. So you want to proxy or egress rules for AI domains. You should detect anomalous AI use from servers, enable EDR block mode, and even audit your firewall logs for new AI endpoints whenever they pop up to make sure to actually have legitimate business use and isn't happening there. If you own an Apple device like yours truly, go ahead and patch up the recent exploited zero-day CVE 2025-43300. Apple patching the image IO after an in-the-wild exploitation. So if you're caught lagging, it affects iOS, iPadOS, macOS endpoints. You want to make sure to force this update down your user's throat ASAP in order to ensure that they're defended and protected. All right, we'll continue with the Belarus military targeted with an SSH Tor backdoor via fake dog. So there's a detailed weaponization zip delivering a backdoor that tunnels via SSH and Tor. The lore is a Belarus military PDF. Again, espionage TTPs that are often trickling down to criminals, this likely nation state. So we see that happening. This kind of operation is being attributed to Sandworm. So that's APT 44 for those who don't know. And again, a lot of activity in that space. So something to keep in mind there. And here's a story we never like to talk about here on the show, but U.S. cybersecurity professionals are being indicted for aiding Alpha V or Black Cat ransomware group. U.S. prosecutor charging 3 Americans allegedly running a covert ransomware operation tied to Black Cat and Alpha V despite day jobs in cybersecurity. Those individuals, 28-year-old Kevin Tyler Martin of Roanoke, Texas, has pleaded not guilty. 33-year-old Ryan Clifford Goldberg of Watkinsville, Georgia, he's been in federal custody since 2023, and an unnamed accomplice are facing charges of conspiracy to interfere with interstate commerce by extortion and intentional damage to protected companies. They each face up to 20 years in prison for extortion and 10 years for damage to computer systems. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, which first spotted the unsealed court documents, Martin worked at Digital Mint as a ransomware threat negotiator, just as the unnamed co-conspirator, while Goldberg is a former Signia incident response manager. The Department of Justice claims the defendants operated as affiliates to Black Cat or Alpha V, gaining unauthorized access to the victim's network, even stealing data, deploying encryption malware, and demanding crypto payments in exchange for decryption keys and promises not to leak the stolen information online. The indictment alleges the group victims include a Tampa medical device manufacturer, a Maryland pharmaceutical company, a California doctor's office, California engineering firm, and a Virginia drone manufacturer. Prosecutors say they demanded ransoms from the range of $300,000 to $10 million, but all in all, they were only paid $1.27 million by the Tampa medical device company after they encrypted its servers and demanded $10 million. Not a good day for us here as practitioners. A definite black eye. I'm not saying it represents all of us, but it just shows you the thin line between white hat and black hat is extremely, extremely thin. And sometimes that comes into play, as we see in this case. The Jabberzeus, a Ukrainian, is being extradited to the U.S. A long-running banking Trojan case advances with the extradition of a Ukrainian suspect from Italy to face U.S. charges, another sign of sustained pressure on some of these cybercrime crews. The continued takedown is creating less of an incentive. The man, Yuri Igorovich Rybatsov, 41 of Donetsk, is allegedly the Jabberzeus developer, Mr. ICQ. It was also mentioned in a 2012 indictment charging 8 others suspected of the cybercrime group there as well. So he's in the U.S. now facing federal charges. He was arrested in Italy, lost the final appeal, and now he's been brought to the U.S. to face the long hand of the law. That's it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow, 9-8. Tomorrow's show will be pre-recorded, just FYI. Simply because of CISO XC. Busy day tomorrow, so I hope to see all of y'all there. Either way, if I don't see you there, I'll see you at FutureCon, but if you're in town, come say hi. And if you're not, 2026 is shaping up to be a year where I'll be at a lot of events, so I hope to see y'all there as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to check out cyberhubpodcast.com for all the latest. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.